about to discover the incredible story of a man who endured repression, war, and betrayal to become a legend. How did Marshal Rokossovsky survive and change the course of history? Unknown pages of the great commander's destiny await you. Early years and personality development. Konstantin Konstantinovich Rokossovsky was born in late October 1919 in a small village on the western edge of the Russian Empire to a family of Polish origin. His parents were ordinary people who lived a simple life. But it was in this environment that the first traits of the future Marshal's character were formed. Konstantin's childhood was filled with difficulties and trials that tempered his will and perseverance from an early age. The Rokossovsky family belonged to the Orthodox faith, which was more the exception than the rule in Polish society. This circumstance further distinguished the boy from his peers and instilled in him a sense of uniqueness and responsibility for his own destiny. His father was often away working, and his mother took care of the home and raised the children, instilling in them resilience and the ability to overcome life's difficulties. Education was an important part of young Konstantin's life. He attended a local school where he showed extraordinary curiosity and diligence. Despite limited resources, his teachers noted his extraordinary mind and thirst for knowledge. At this age, his character began to form, which later helped him overcome many difficulties on his way to a military career. Rokossovsky's youth was a difficult time. The Russian Empire was undergoing serious political and social upheavals that were felt even in remote corners of the country. The turmoil of the historical context was reflected in the young man's thinking and views, awakening in him a sense of patriotism and duty. He realized that the world around him was changing rapidly, and that one could not remain a passive observer. Konstantin's entry into military service marked a new stage in his life. He first underwent training, where he demonstrated not only physical endurance, but also strategic thinking, which was rare for his age. His mentors noted his ability to make quick decisions and adapt to changing circumstances, which became a key skill in his future career. His Polish origins were not always an advantage in the Russian army at that time, but Rokossovsky managed to overcome prejudice and demonstrate high professionalism. It is important to understand that it was this fact, combined with his personal qualities, that earned him the trust of the country's leader. His national identity merged with his loyalty to his new homeland. The trials and tribulations he faced before entering active service also played a significant role in shaping his personality. Illness, the loss of loved ones, changes, and harsh upbringing made him more mature and responsible. These circumstances taught him not only resilience, but also the ability to analyze situations and find unconventional solutions in critical moments. An important aspect was the surrounding cultural and political influence. The young Rokossovsky was influenced by books, eyewitness accounts, and conversations with people who had lived through wars and revolutions. Such a broad outlook expanded his horizons and at the same time forced him to seek his own path among the many possible scenarios for the development of events. Despite all the difficulties, the young man remained open and friendly. He was able to find common ground with people of different views and nationalities, which later proved to be an indispensable quality for a leader capable of leading the armed forces in a multinational empire. This talent gave hope for a successful future. His family environment was of particular importance. The Rokossovskys supported each other with vivid displays of human warmth and mutual respect. His mother, in particular, was a source of strength in difficult times, instilling in her child a sense of justice and the importance of personal dignity. These family lessons took root in Konstantin's soul and accompanied him throughout his life. At the same time, the reflection of major political processes collided with the private destinies of ordinary people. Rokossovsky grew up in an era when new forces and ideas capable of radically changing the established order of things were emerging on the world political scene. His upbringing took place against a backdrop of change and expectations that shaped a deep sense of responsibility for the future. Thus, Konstantin Rokossovsky's early years were a time not only of personal growth, but also of preparation to become one of the most outstanding military leaders of the 20th century. His Polish blood and his destiny as a Russian officer intertwined in a unique blend that was later appreciated and honored even by Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin, who entrusted him with crucial tasks. The next stage of his life would be marked by his active participation in World War I and the subsequent revolutionary events, when trials would become even more severe and his personality would be finally forged in the flames of battle and responsibility for the fate of millions. That is where we will go next, to continue our acquaintance with a hero who was destined to become a legend. Career in the Red Army before the Great Patriotic War. Konstantin Rokossovsky was born in 1889 in Warsaw, then under the rule of the Russian Empire. He spent his childhood in a family of a Polish father and a Russian mother, which from the very beginning gave him a dual identity. This fact would play an important role in his future military career. After joining the Russian army in 1917, he found himself caught up in the turbulent events of the Civil War. It was here that his initial leadership qualities and professional approach to military affairs became apparent. The young officer quickly distinguished himself among his peers, demonstrating not only courage, but also an ability to analyze the situation, which was rare in wartime. During the Civil War, Rokossovsky served in various units of the Red Army, seeing much on the fronts of internal conflicts. Thanks to his strategic thinking, he repeatedly saved units from encirclement and defeat, which attracted the attention of his superiors. These achievements laid the foundation for trust on the part of the Soviet command and allowed him to advance through the ranks. An important aspect of his career was his training at the Frunze Military Academy, where he deepened his knowledge of tactics and strategy, which would later play a key role in large-scale operations. The academy allowed him to combine theoretical training with practical experience, which in the mid-1920s made him one of the most promising officers in the Red Army. During the interwar period, which was marked by political changes and the militarization of the country, Rokossovsky not only honed his military skills, but also proved himself to be a man of strong will and loyalty to the Soviet system. His Polish ancestry did not prevent him from becoming one of Joseph Stalin's trusted confidants, which was extremely unusual for that time. The secret of this trust lay in his uncompromising nature and ability to assess situations objectively, avoiding unnecessary ideological paradoxes. He was able to see the task at hand without national prejudices, which made him a valuable commander against the backdrop of internal purges. where many officers fell victim to suspicion. Rokossovsky proved through his service that loyalty and professionalism are more important than any national stereotypes, which allowed him not only to survive, but also to rise to a high command position. By the end of the 1930s, he was already a lieutenant general responsible for troop training and tactical planning. His participation in military exercises and the development of operational documents was highly praised by the leadership. He paid particular attention to the mobility and coordination of the infantry with the tank and air forces, which later influenced the successful operations in the Great Patriotic War. Despite the atmosphere of political terror, Rokossovsky skillfully maneuvered, avoiding unnecessary conflicts and maintaining working relationships with his colleagues. He possessed not only an analytical mind, but also extraordinary composure, which helped him withstand the tests of time and establish himself in the elite of the Soviet military leadership. An important event during this period was his service in various military districts, where he honed his skills in commanding large formations and interacting with party organizations. These years laid the foundation for his confidence and allowed him to receive key appointments in the early days of the Great Patriotic War. Besonderes Augenmerk legte auf die Mobilität und Koordination der Infanterie mit den Panzer- und Luftstreitkräften, was später den Erfolg im Großen Vaterländischen Krieg beeinflusste. His army career was inextricably linked to the development of the Red Army as an institution, which helped him become one of the few officers who retained their initiative and will to win. It was during this period that he ceased to be just a Polish colonel and became a man whom Stalin could trust to carry out the most complex operations. Moving from one position to another, Rokossovsky constantly demonstrated deep strategic insight and unwavering dedication to his cause. These qualities made him an exceptional figure among Soviet military leaders of the interwar period. His story is an example of how professionalism and determination can overcome any social and national barriers. This career in the Red Army laid a solid foundation for the historic victories that awaited him. And now we will lift the veil on his activities during the Great Patriotic War. See Trials of Repression and Return to Duty. Marshal Konstantin Konstantinovich Rokossovsky is a figure whose name is inextricably linked with the greatest battles of World War II, but his path to the heights of military Olympus was far from easy. At the turn of the 1920s and 1930s, he endured severe trials that could have destroyed his career and erased him from the pages of history forever. These trials were Stalin's repressions, which left an indelible mark on his fate, as well as on the fates of many other Soviet officers and officials. In the late 1920s, Rokossovsky held important command posts and was considered a very promising military leader. However, in an atmosphere of growing political terror, a thirst for purges, and a struggle against enemies of the people, every step could be fatal. In 1937, during the so-called Great Terror, Rokossovsky came under suspicion. He was accused of having ties to Polish intelligence and espionage. The charges, which were unfounded and dictated by the regime's paranoia, could have led to his execution. But fate decided otherwise. His arrest and subsequent interrogations were hellish. While in custody, Rokossovsky endured 6 brutal months in the dungeons of the NKVD. Physical abuse and psychological torture were used to break his spirit. But unlike many of his comrades, he did not lose heart and did not make false confessions, showing incredible inner strength and faith in the truth. He managed to maintain his dignity even in the most desperate circumstances. What made his case unique was that Stalin himself took an interest in the officer. Perhaps Rokossovsky's reputation as a talented military man and his impeccable record played a role. After several months of investigation, in 1938, the charges were dropped and he was released. However, he had to fight long and hard to restore his reputation, which had been undermined by the blind cruelty of the era. After returning to service, Rokossovsky realized that his trials had changed him not only as a person, but also as a military leader. He became a cautious, perceptive strategist who took into account not only military tactics, but also political nuances. His experience with the repressive system gave him new strength and an understanding of how to operate within the Soviet bureaucracy and paranoia. At the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, Rokossovsky was appointed to important command posts, where his army played a key role in the defense and counterattacks near Moscow and Stalingrad. Despite the trials he had endured, he remained loyal to his homeland and became one of the few Soviet commanders whom Stalin trusted unconditionally. This trust was not only the result of his professionalism, but also a test that Rokossovsky passed through the fire of repression and injustice. Rokossovsky's life and career after his release demonstrate how the personal strength and talent of a military man can overcome cruel political trials. He not only managed to rehabilitate himself, but also became a symbol of steadfastness and patriotism, earning the respect not only of his comrades, but also of his enemies. His name became a shining example of how tragedy can be turned into triumph, and how experiences can be transformed into life lessons for future generations. Many historians have noted that it was precisely the trials of repression that made Rokossovsky more judicious and cunning. His ability to navigate between army discipline and the whims of political leaders ensured his success in the most difficult conditions. At the same time, he did not become an executioner or simply an executive apparatus, but retained his humanity and remained true to his principles. Such was the fate of a man who, despite the circumstances, earned the trust of Stalin himself and became one of the legendary commanders of his era. His life is a living illustration of how fortitude, honesty, and dedication to the cause can overcome even the darkest pages of history. The next chapter will continue the story of how Rokossovsky turned his trials into experience and led the Soviet troops to new heights on the front lines. The Great Patriotic War, a battle for trust and victory. During the Great Patriotic War, Rokossovsky became one of the most vivid symbols of military genius and steadfastness of the Soviet leadership. His path to the heights of military command was not easy and was fraught with trials, but it was this path that shaped the personality trusted by Stalin himself. Rokossovsky was distinguished not only by his strategic thinking, but also by his deep humanity, which made him an extraordinary commander. Originally from Poland, he managed to become part of the Soviet military establishment and prove his devotion to the cause of liberating his new homeland. At the very beginning of the Great Patriotic War, Rokossovsky already had experience commanding on the front lines. But it was this conflict that revealed all facets of his tactical talent. His ability not just to give orders, but to anticipate the development of combat operations and calculate unexpected situations played a key role at many stages of the war. Fate threw him into the hottest spots of the conflict, where every step could be decisive for millions of lives. At the same time, he always remained as focused as possible and demanding of himself and his subordinates. One of the Marshal's first major achievements was the Battle of Moscow. At that critical moment, when it seemed that the enemy was about to break through to the capital, it was Rokossovsky, together with his colleagues, who organized the defense that not only stopped the advance, but also marked the beginning of the counteroffensive. His deep understanding of the importance of each division, each weapon, and each frontline position allowed him to maintain the balance of forces and prevent total collapse. This battle was key proof of his ability to lead an army under crazy pressure and stress. Meanwhile, Stalin's personal trust in Rokossovsky grew slowly. It is well known that the great leader was a suspicious and cautious man, especially when it came to the high command. But in the case of Rokossovsky, there were obvious exceptions. Perhaps they were bound not only by a common goal, but also by an understanding that without decisive and professional commanders, victory was impossible. Stalin emphasized his tactical acumen and ability to conduct complex operations capable of radically changing the course of the war. An important milestone in the Marshal's career was his participation in the Battle of Stalingrad. This turning point in the history of the Great Patriotic War confirmed Rokossovsky's high status as a military leader. His troops were able not only to withstand the onslaught of the German army, but also to organize a massive counteroffensive that defeated the enemy and significantly weakened its combat effectiveness. At the same time, the Marshal's personal presence at the front lines inspired the soldiers and emphasized the importance of the tasks before them. Rokossovsky was skilled not only at making decisions in conditions of complete chaos, but also at accurately assessing the enemy's capabilities. His analytical approach to combat was reflected in his careful preparation of operations and control over every stage. This repeatedly forced German commanders to face unpleasant surprises that undermined their plans and morale. His experience and will to win served as a reliable support for the Red Army in the most difficult battles. Despite his high position, Rokossovsky remained a man who did not forget his subordinates. Raised in a spirit of discipline and respect, he always sought to motivate his soldiers, emphasizing the importance of each participant in the combat process. It played no less a role in the overall strategy than artillery or aviation. This earned him the sincere respect and even love of the people he led in the most terrible battles of the 20th century. The operation to liberate Belarus was no less successful, with Rokossovsky leading a strategic breakthrough through the fortified German positions. Organizing a large-scale offensive operation required not only knowledge of tactics, but also talented management of army resources. This campaign revealed all of the Marshal's qualities: strategic thinking, the ability to work as a team and listen to his advisors, as well as incredible stamina. The result was felt throughout the entire war. Interestingly, Rokossovsky's Polish origins were often the subject of attention and speculation. Some historians note that these rumors played both a positive and negative role in the Marshal's military career. However, his actions spoke much louder than any speculation or conjecture. He proved that belonging to one nation or another takes a back seat when it comes to defending the world and humanity from the fascist threat. His example inspired many to unite in the struggle for a common future. In the post-war period, Rokossovsky's personal and professional legacy was carefully studied by Soviet and foreign military experts. His command style and training methods became a benchmark for future generations of officers. In this sense, he not only contributed to victory, but also laid the foundations for the development of military science and art. His memory lives on in museums, educational institutions, and in the hearts of those who know the value of true heroism. Thus, Rokossovsky went down in the history of the Great Patriotic War as a man who managed to win Stalin's trust and turn his strategic vision into reality on the battlefield. His unique leadership style and deep understanding of military affairs made him a key figure, without whom the outcome of many battles would have been highly uncertain. The next chapter will allow us to examine how the fates of other outstanding commanders unfolded and what their contribution to the struggle for victory was. Features of command style and tactics. Marshal Konstantin Rokossovsky was a unique figure not only in the history of Soviet military art, but also in 20th century military science worldwide. His command style was distinguished by a harmonious combination of strict discipline, tactical flexibility, and sincere concern for each soldier. This is how he built his reputation as one of the most successful commanders of the Great Patriotic War. Rokossovsky understood that war is not only a mechanical battle of forces, but also a psychological struggle of minds, requiring a deep analysis of the situation and a creative approach in each specific battle. The main feature of his style was his ability to see the scale of a general operation while maintaining the most subtle control over the actions of each unit. He insisted that a commander must remain clear in setting tasks, but not restrict the initiative of officers and enlisted men. This strategy made it possible to maximize the advantages of the terrain and quickly adapt to changes on the battlefield. Rokossovsky sought to build teamwork not only through the vertical chain of command, but also through trust, which was rare in the fiercest battles and at the same time a key factor in success. Thorough preparation of forces before an offensive was an important part of his military practice. He required his subordinates to study maps in detail, know the enemy, and choose attack routes wisely. One of Rokossovsky's principles was to use reconnaissance not only to gather information, but also to put psychological pressure on the enemy. Sabotage, false maneuvers, and the timely use of artillery and aviation created a sense of omnipresent threat in the enemy. This art of misleading the enemy played a key role in Rokossovsky's strategy. A distinctive feature of the commander was his ability to effectively integrate offensive and defensive actions. He built his operations in such a way that at any moment of combat, it was possible to switch to a counterattack if the offensive stalled. It was often his ability to quickly reorganize his forces and maneuver that ensured success in major battles, such as the Battle of Kursk and the liberation of Warsaw. Rokossovsky valued speed and decisiveness, but never neglected the protection of his own troops, which allowed him to preserve manpower even in the most difficult conditions. His approach to tactics also included a clear division of roles between infantry, tank units, and artillery. Rokossovsky understood that the success of an operation depended directly on the coordinated work of all branches of the armed forces. He constantly demanded coordination and mutual assistance, using the advantages of each type of troops to accomplish the tasks at hand. Particular attention was paid to logistics and communications, which he considered the foundation for maintaining the combat effectiveness of the army. This comprehensive approach ensured the extraordinary effectiveness of his command. Rokossovsky stood out for his ability to remain calm in critical situations, which often proved decisive in battles with the enemy. His personal energy and confidence influenced not only his subordinates, but also his allies. Despite the harshness of wartime, he knew how to maintain the morale of the army, understanding that victory begins with belief in one's own strength. Rokossovsky always emphasized that every soldier is a key element of a large machine, and that people on the battlefield must be treated humanely and fairly. It was also important that he considered the use of new technologies and methods of warfare to be essential. Konstantin Rokossovsky was always up to date with the latest achievements in military science and technology, so his troops were equipped to the most modern standards of the time. He encouraged initiative in the application of innovations and new developments, which not only increased combat effectiveness, but also reduced casualties among personnel. This strategic thinking reflected Rokossovsky's deep understanding of the changing nature of warfare in the 20th century. In many ways, his unique style of command was also shaped by his personal biography. Being Polish by birth, he had the ability to see war from different sides, which made him more open to unconventional solutions. Despite his origins, he was loyal to the Soviet Union, which earned him the special trust of Joseph Stalin. For Rokossovsky, war was not only a test of courage, but also a field for demonstrating personal honor and dignity. This combination of professionalism and patriotism made him a symbol of genius in field strategy and ideological unity. Rokossovsky's tactics, based on a combination of deep analysis, quick reactions, and creative risk-taking, had a huge impact on the course of key battles. His operations often resulted in minimal losses and maximum gains, which did not go unnoticed by the highest echelons of the Soviet command. His arsenal included effective approaches to positional warfare, combined defense, and rapid offensives, which were used in a wide variety of conditions. This versatility became one of his main combat advantages. Equally important was the fact that under Rokossovsky's leadership, the level of professionalism among the officer corps increased. He paid special attention to the training of middle-ranking commanders, encouraging independence and creative thinking. This created a powerful team capable of making independent decisions and easily coping with unexpected situations. Such an organizational model was practically revolutionary for the Soviet army of that period and made it possible to achieve impressive results on the front. It should be noted that in the post-war period, Rokossovsky's style and principles continued to be studied and applied in military academies in various countries. His experience became a valuable lesson for future generations of military specialists. An analysis of his tactics allows us to understand how a competent combination of science, art, and the human factor can lead to victory. At the same time, Rokossovsky always remained extremely pragmatic, not allowing emotions and ideology to obscure the real situation on the battlefield. Thus, Konstantin Rokossovsky's command style and tactics are a unique phenomenon in the history of military affairs. It is a harmony of strict order and unobtrusive freedom, powerful discipline and human empathy, rigorous analysis, and creative risk-taking. Knowledge and understanding of these characteristics allow us not only to gain a deeper understanding of the course of the Great Patriotic War, but also to learn valuable lessons for modern military and civilian leaders. It is time to move on to the next stage and look at how Rokossovsky distinguished himself in specific battles that determined the fate of the world. The person behind the army uniform, a man and a statesman. Marshal Konstantin Rokossovsky is a figure whose life and fate are closely intertwined with the turbulent events of the 20th century. Despite his Polish nationality, he became one of the most respected military leaders of the Soviet Union, earning Stalin's trust and command of the largest fronts. Behind his army uniform was a man with a rich inner world, strong moral principles, and a deep sense of duty. His personal qualities often became a source of strength in difficult situations, when the outcome of battles and the fate of millions were at stake. Rokossovsky was born in Warsaw in the early 19th century to a family with Polish and Russian roots. From his mother, he inherited tenderness and the ability to see people, and from his father, strength of spirit and strictness. These qualities defined his character throughout his life. His iron will was evident in combat, but among his comrades he was known for his easygoing nature and sense of humor. Family played an important role in his life, and despite his military duties, he always strove to maintain warmth and mutual respect at home. One of the mysteries of his life is connected with his choice of country and ideology. Although Rokossovsky was a Polish patriot by origin, it was in the Soviet Union that he found a field for the realization of his military and political ambitions. His devotion to his homeland proved to be higher than his national preferences. He saw in the socialist state a force capable of resisting fascism and restoring justice on the world stage. This position secured him not only a military career, but also deep respect from the party leadership. In the post-war years, Konstantin Konstantinovich became a key figure in strengthening the Soviet Union's defense capabilities. His experience gained on the battlefields of the Great Patriotic War proved invaluable in the formation of new strategies. Rokossovsky not only commanded ground forces, but also actively participated in the training of young officers, passing on to them his insight and ability to make difficult decisions in extreme conditions. His recommendations on the mobilization and technical modernization of the army were widely implemented. Interestingly, the Marshal had a unique sense of tact and an ability to find common ground with a wide variety of people. Even when surrounded by the highest party leaders and generals, he maintained his personal dignity, avoiding confrontation and excessive aggression. His calmness and prudence sometimes seemed mysterious to those around him, but it was precisely these qualities that helped him survive internal crises and maintain the morale of soldiers and officers. This was where his true strength lay, unrelated to weapons or rank. Rokossovsky knew how to combine the rank of Marshal with a commitment to simple human values. His personal life, although rarely mentioned in the press, was filled with affection and faith in his family. It is known that he was willing to sacrifice his career to save his loved ones. Perhaps that is why he always emphasized the importance of balance between service and personal well-being. which was no easy task in the Soviet system, which sometimes demanded unconditional obedience. This aspect of his character helped create an atmosphere of trust around him. He remained a man capable of deep reflection on the nature of power and politics. It is known that the Marshal respected classical literature and philosophy, which shaped his view of life and the role of the individual in history. His attitude toward power was pragmatic. It serves the people, not the blind execution of orders. Despite his official duties and party posts, Rokossovsky never lost his sense of responsibility to every soldier and every citizen of the country. This is what made him one of the most authoritative leaders of the Soviet Union. At the same time, against the backdrop of widespread conspiracy theories surrounding the post-war USSR, Rokossovsky's figure often becomes the subject of speculation. Some believe that his Polish origin could have been an obstacle within the party elite, but the Marshal proved the opposite. His talent and dedication to the cause were so significant that they outweighed any national prejudices. This allowed him to engage not only in military construction, but also to hold high positions in state administration, influencing the development of the armed forces and foreign policy. The role of Rokossovsky in shaping the military and political strategies of the Cold War cannot be overestimated. His vision of threats and the need to strengthen defense capabilities played a key role in the development of concepts capable of protecting the country from possible external pressure. His teachings were based on the experience of the Great Patriotic War, where every mistake could cost the lives of not only soldiers, but also the entire state. It was this lesson that he passed on to his successors, instilling in them a deep understanding of the risks of the modern world. Diplomacy became an integral part of his post-war activities. Rokossovsky represented the Soviet Union at international military and political forums, demonstrating his skills as a commander and as a man with a clearly defined position. His speeches were always distinguished by logical argumentation and a respectful tone, which earned him respect even among his Western opponents. This ability to engage in dialogue and persuade without excessive confrontation was perhaps the result of his early life lessons, which included a multinational upbringing and an understanding of different cultures. Overall, Konstantin Konstantinovich Rokossovsky's personality combined tough professionalism with deep humanity. His life and service became a symbol of victory and steadfastness. Even in difficult political circumstances, he remained true to his principles and served as an example for many generations of military and civilian personnel. His legacy continues to be studied and revered, forming an important part of history in both Russia and Poland. Understanding his inner world helps to better comprehend the historical processes in which he participated. His biography and post-war actions show how closely intertwined the army and politics were in Soviet society. Rokossovsky became a bridge between these spheres, helping to establish order and discipline without forgetting the human factor. This balance, so necessary during the period of state restoration and consolidation, became one of the Marshal's main achievements. It is this quality that makes him a truly unique figure, deserving of in-depth study by his contemporaries and descendants. Moving on to the next stage of his life, it should be noted that the drama and challenges he faced only strengthened his character. His further activities related to the reform of the army and interaction with political institutions will be revealed in the next part of the study. allowing us to see this outstanding personality from new and equally interesting angles. We will continue to explore not only the military talent, but also the social significance of Marshal Rokossovsky in the difficult post-war decades. The legacy of Marshal Rokossovsky in history and culture. Marshal Rokossovsky rightfully occupies a special place in the history not only of the Soviet Union, but of the entire world. His contribution to victory in World War II cannot be overestimated, and his personality has become a symbol of courage, strategic thinking, and a stubborn pursuit of justice. The attitude towards him in Soviet and modern culture reflects the depth of historical changes, and his biography is the subject of numerous studies, discussions, and even legends. The image of Rokossovsky has been repeatedly portrayed in cinema. One striking example is a famous Soviet film in which the Marshal is portrayed not only as a military victor, but also as a man faced with difficult moral choices, whose decisions reflect those of an entire generation. The filmmakers strive to show his inner struggle, moments of doubt and determination, allowing the viewer to better understand the complexity of the era and each individual hero. His figure is never reduced to that of a military commander. He is portrayed as a profound man, a perceptive strategist, and a man of honor. The literature on Rokossovsky is also extensive and diverse. Biographers seek to reveal not only the facts, but also the personal traits that shaped his character. His books often mention his unique background. He was Polish by nationality, but served the Soviet Union loyally, which is interesting from the perspective of loyalty and national identity. Some authors bring up his complicated relationship with the country's political leadership, which adds extra drama to his story. Military studies consider Rokossovsky one of the greatest tacticians of the 20th century. His operations are considered a model of mastery in the organization of offensive actions and the use of deep reserves. Academic circles discuss different views on his command style and decisions, which once again confirms the richness of his legacy. To this day, his military experience is studied in officer training courses in many countries, and the lessons of his actions serve as an example for new generations of military personnel. Despite the passage of many decades, Rokossovsky remains a relevant figure. His legacy continues to inspire both respect and controversy. Some see him as the embodiment of unwavering will and conscience, others as a complex political figure forced to navigate between his personal convictions and the demands of the times. This ambiguity makes him a hero who cannot be described in simple terms, which only serves to heighten interest in his personality. The memory of the Marshal lives on in monuments, street names, and museums. In different countries, his name is associated with the fight against fascism and steadfastness in the harsh conditions of war. Contemporary exhibitions and memorials regularly remind us of his exploits, keeping alive interest in historical truth and showing respect for his achievements. This also allows the younger generation to learn about important pages of history through the prism of human destinies. It is interesting to note that in the post-Soviet space, the image of Rokossovsky sometimes becomes the subject of ideological disputes and even conspiracy theories. There is speculation about the reasons for his rise and fall, about the motives behind his political decisions, which creates a kind of mythology around his figure. Although many of these claims are far from proven, They demonstrate the public's keen interest in history and stimulate discussion, encouraging new research and publications. It is impossible not to note that the quality of materials and research on Rokossovsky has improved significantly in recent decades. Archives that were inaccessible to researchers for many years are now open, allowing for a broader view of his life and activities. This contributes to the formation of a more objective picture that takes into account both his achievements and his difficulties. It is this approach that allows us to see the Marshal not only as a hero and strategist, but also as a complex man of an era of great trials. Thus, Marshal Rokossovsky's legacy is full of multifaceted meanings and significance. His image in culture and science serves not only as a monument to the past, but also as a lesson for the future. The reason for the continuing interest in him lies in the universality of his story. It is a story of loyalty to duty, struggle against circumstances, and the search for one's own path in difficult conditions. He continues to inspire and provoke thought, uniting generations in the memory of great events. Continuing to analyze the influence of Rokossovsky's personality, it is worth paying attention to his place in contemporary military and cultural discourse, which we will examine in detail in the next part.